This is Iberian Property Insights, an initiative aimed for those who want to be updated on the Iberian real estate sector. My name is Alexander Lima. In this episode, I have the pleasure of having with me António Simontalero, Country Manager of Iberia at CBRE Investment Management and Portfolio Manager of CBRE Pan-European Core Fund. António, thanks for being so kind and to accept our invitation, and especially, as I understood, to participate on your first podcast ever. Welcome. Even though your company is a reference investor in our sector, I'd like to start by enlightening those who are hearing us and may not be so familiar with your activity. Very briefly, do you care to tell us who is CBRE Investment Management?
Hello, Alexandre, and thank you for inviting me to this podcast. Well, CBRE Investment Management is one of the leading real asset investment managers of the world. We have close to 150 billion of assets under management globally, and we operate globally in 20 countries around the world. And what we do is we offer to clients what we call real assets investment strategies, and that goes from direct and indirect private real estate to private infrastructure, as well as listed real estate or listed real assets. One important thing about CBRE IM, and that perhaps differentiates it from other investment managers, is what we call our investor-operator approach. And what this means is that we want to lead, to be a leader in the real assets investment management industry by delivering top service to both our investor clients, but also to our occupiers clients. So we work both aspects of the investments, the pure investment and the operating the real assets.
Good. And Antonio, in terms of investments, what relevance does Iberia have currently in your portfolio?
Well, it's I would say that huge relevance, or at least very important relevance. We are one of the most important offices in EMEA, in Europe. Consider that we have a long track record here. We have been operating in Iberia since the late 90s, many years. At that time, it was still ING Real Estate, which was later acquired by CBRE to become part of CBRE Investment Management. We have been operating in almost all sectors during this time. We operated in commercial real estate, in logistics, in offices, and as well in retail. We also have investments in residential. So and as of today, we have circa 4 billion of assets under management in the region. Our main office is in Madrid, but from Madrid we manage both Spain and Portugal.
Well, we do hope to see Iberia grow even further in your portfolio. And if you allow me, I'd like to pose you maybe a more personal question. That is, what transactions would you like to have done but were not able to, maybe to enter a specific sector or city? I'll leave it up to your consideration.
Yeah, that's a tricky question. And I will tell you that I really don't regret, or we really don't regret not having done any particular transaction. As we said, we have a large footprint in Iberia, so we are well diversified. We have strong capital sources that allow us to untap almost every opportunity in the market, and we are very disciplined in our investment approach. So meaning that we determine the price that we are willing to enter into a transaction, the risk attached to it. And with that, we proceed. Obviously, there are some cases in which perhaps we were not able to get a transaction, and we lost in a bid versus a competitor. But I normally want to think that perhaps that means that the transaction was simply not for us. We put our best offer, and we consider that we shouldn't pay more. So if someone is having a different view, it's good, but also good for us. We will go for different opportunities. So really difficult for me to put an example here, because I think we had very good investments in the past, and we are very happy with what we have done, with what we are doing, and rather than regretting or thinking about any specific opportunity that we may have missed.
A very safe and positive answer.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you elaborate a little bit more about company investment strategy? You said at the beginning that you are present in more than 20 countries. Will you be addressing them in a centralized way, or do you have different focuses at the country level?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays most of our funds are either global or focused in large regions like Europe, for instance. So in that sense, Iberia is part of that focus. Yeah, we have a both bottom-up and top-down approach when analyzing investments. So we have a very rigorous process and a house view, which determines the right sectors to invest at each specific time, as well as the different country weightings. And based on that, we proceed on executing the deals at local level. So it's very important to have this combination, because at the end of the day, real estate, we all know, and it's often said, but it's good to remark, it's a very local business. It's absolutely critical to have teams on site with the right network, with the right knowledge, with the right track record that can access this opportunity, and combine this approach, which is more macro driven, with the local intelligence and the local insights, and of course the local asset management capabilities.
Regarding Iberia, do you have already any planned investment volume for the next year, or are you still elaborating that strategy?
Yeah, we when we are being asked this question, is also a really difficult one to answer. And we always say that this is mostly driven by the opportunities that we may find in the market. So it's really difficult to give a budget. What we say is that we are ready to invest, and we are ready to invest even big volumes if the opportunity is right. And in the past, we received this question many times, especially after we have done large investments or large exits. Like, okay, you invested 700 million last year. Does it mean that this year are you going to invest more, 800, a billion? Well, not necessarily. Or yes. It will depend on what type of transactions we can execute, and if we believe that this is accretive and beneficial to our shareholders. So to your question, the answer is no, but the answer as well is that, as I said, we have a strong capital sources, and if the opportunity is right, we will be there.
I will launch you another difficult question.
Okay.
We tend to avoid doing predictions in our sector, but I like to have your view on this one. What do you think is going to be the big trend that will mark the next months or the next year?
Perhaps I should mention here again ESG. And this is not really a new thing. We have been hearing it a lot, so we cannot say that it's a new trend, but it's certainly there, and it's going to continue being there, especially in Europe and for European investors. I can tell you that I have a lot of meetings with institutional investors around Europe, and it's very, very strange, the meeting in which this topic is not on the table. So, and this goes much beyond having a certified building or certain credentials. It has to do with decarbonization, with the net zero pathway, with the capex associated to achieve these goals, to the impact that this is going to have in return. So it's definitely a trend that is not new. But for sure is something that we will continue seeing and will be on the discussions with all institutional investors.
As you know, in Iberian property, we are always on top of the major deals closed in both Spain and Portugal. What kind of news can we expect to publish regarding CBRE IM during 2024? In other words, will you be writing about acquisitions, or will you be more on the selling side?
It will depend on the opportunities that we see on the market. It will depend on the capacity to match prices between buyers and sellers. And the only thing I can say here is that what I already repeated, that we are monitoring the whole market. That in this type of market, in which there is uncertainty, normally comes as well with opportunities, and that we are very close to all markets to jump on them if that is the case. In the meantime, what we are doing a lot is to spend a lot of time in the assets, to focus on what we can control, which is not so much if the yield is 5 or 6 or 4, but what is happening with our tenants, with our occupiers, our capex programs, and ensure that we deliver in accordance to the plan, because that is something that we can control. The investment market is more uncertain. It will depend very much on what will happen in the next 6 months.
Picking up on uncertainty that you mentioned, do you believe it's beginning to fade away, or is it still a non-avoidable factor that is constraining investment decisions?
Well, it is non-avoidable, but I think it's always non-avoidable. This is uncertainty, something we live with, and we are constantly making decisions with the information that we have. We try to do the best decisions, obviously, but there is always a degree of uncertainty. It is true that now perhaps it's more than what we have seen, especially in the last year, as a result of everything that is happening in the macro and the adjustment in prices, the increases in yield. And the question is if we have hit bottom or not. If we have not, how long will it take? So, in that sense, that is something unavoidable, as you were saying, but I don't see that as a problem, because as I already mentioned, in this type of environment, there are always opportunities. And if you are ready to capture, you can profit from them. And this is something that we have seen in the past, that we have done in the past, and that we are ready to take. So uncertainty, yes, but it comes as well with opportunities.
Regarding the buildings that you currently own, you said ESG is going to be very important for the future, or better, it will continue.
It's already.
It's already. Yeah. So I'd like to ask you, how did it influence your asset management strategy in terms of capex? Did you felt a huge impact, or were you already previously anticipating that you would need to adapt?
Well, it's part of the business plan. It's the ESG capex is part of our capex planning on the existing portfolio, as it is in the new acquisitions or the underwritings that we do when we are analyzing a potential purchase of an asset. So it is already there. In our case, ESG is one of our pillars, and we pay a lot of attention to this, because also the social responsibility attached to all the actions there. So I will tell you that it's already there, and for sure it's there for the new assets that we incorporate in our portfolio.
Something that we did not mention yet was technology. In the past couple of weeks, I've been reading it a lot about how AI may affect our industry, our sector, and big data. Would you say that it's going to have a positive impact for the sector, and are you already preparing for something that might come?
Absolutely. And in our case, what I can tell you is that CBRE IM for sure is very much data-driven, and it's data-driven also in the two different layers that I was telling you before, from a top-down perspective, but also bottom-up. From a top-down perspective, we have a significant number of people that in research, in quant, in analytics, more than 20 researchers in the company, 30 persons also in analytics and risk management, who help us, to understand what is the right strategy for each market at each moment, and help us to define all these portfolio definitions and what we should be focusing on at each time. And at the same time, we believe that there is a lot of a lot to gain when using asset data to understand performance of the underlying asset data to serve better to the occupier's client, and that is something that we have been doing for already many years. And we are in a sector which is very data rich. We can extract a lot of data, and with the right analysis, you can derive very powerful and meaningful conclusions that can help you in the investment process to make better decisions. So, absolutely, yes, we are very much data driven, and I personally enjoy a lot working with data and analytics.
Also, looking forward to see how it's going to impact the sector. Antonio, I'm not going to ask you to do a prediction now. I'm going to ask you to do something else that is a wrap-up. Mm-hmm. Can you recall what was your sentiment at the beginning of the year? I mean, looking backwards, would you say that 2023 overcame your expectations?
I don't remember well my feeling at early 2023, but for sure you could see that the market was changing, and you could not see at early 2023. You could see that even before, and with the change in interest rates, and even before that, because the rates came after we were seeing inflation rates at levels that we had not seen in several years. So you could certainly feel that the market was changing, and that it was not going to be a year like the ones we had before, so from very long time ago. So I would say that perhaps it has gone according to expectations, because for sure at the beginning of the year we could say that this was going to be a more difficult year in respect of capital markets, in respect of the evolution of values. Where I can say that the market has behaved, or that the results continue being strong, is in the more operational aspects of the portfolio, across the board, and especially in our CBRE IM portfolio. The results for 2023 in terms of occupancy, in terms of rental growth, in terms of rent collection continue being very strong. So in that sense, we can say that we have moved in accordance to the plan. But the macro sentiment obviously was very different to previous years.
Let's see what this last 1.5 months of the year reserved to us in terms of capital markets and everything.
Yes.
So finally, let's say that the general public, people that are not a part of our sector, will be listening to this podcast. What message would you like to leave them regarding the role of an investment fund and what impact it has on our society?
Okay, these questions is very much related or connects well with some things we have already talked, especially about the ESG. I can remark here as well that the 40% of the carbon emissions come from what we could consider the built environment. So our industry as a whole has a very important role to play here, to build a greener environment, to in a way to make a more sustainable world. Sustainable credentials is part of the DNA of our company, of CBRE and IM, because we want to promote well-being and to create places that become safe places to either to live or to work. But that is more connected to the E of the ESG, but also in the S, more specific, is how do we manage our relationship with the communities that either work in our buildings, live in our buildings, or shop in our buildings. That is very, very relevant for us, and we dedicate budgets to interact with the community, to develop programs closer with the municipalities in which we are operating. So, yeah, very very important aspect as well. And the last thing I should highlight here is as well what we call the impact fund. The impact fund are funds that in our particular case are residential funds that have a clearly defined social impact frameworks and aim to deliver on social targets in those frameworks, alongside, of course, with financial returns to the shareholders. So I would say that it's a very important role because we work with real assets, assets, as I was saying, in which people either live or work or simply have a nice time. So a very important role from our side, and a lot of responsibility in that respect.
For sure. Antonio, it was a truly pleasure to be talking with you today and to have a close picture of CBRE IM future plans. This was Iberian Property Insights, powered by Grupo Iberian.